We'll be leaving at 11:30 for half an hour. So we now come to the public forum. Do we have any public forum?
Yes, I'm going to bring them now.
Okay. Okay.
So anywhere.
Welcome, Graham.
Thank you. I have some handouts.
Okay, if you give those a beneficial.
Thanks, Graham. Do they get the plastic covers?
Yes, they do.
That's very nice of you.
So we're here to listen to what you have to say. We may have some questions for clarification at the end, but we won't be debating it.
Firstly, thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here today representing the Community Pool Committee and appreciate the opportunity to speak to this document. Hopefully you now have in hand. Firstly, we believe the community pool is an integral part of our community. The complex helps give a sense of belonging. If there are opportunities to enhance the complex, we see this as a positive direction. All year use would not only attract custom to the pool, but to the town in its entirety. And we've attached some motel research that was completed in February this year. The Community Pool AGM took place on the 13th of August, and there is a new chairperson, secretary and treasurer, along with new committee members, all volunteers with fresh ideas. Monique has retained her position as pool manager and is currently recruiting part-time lifesavers. Monique and her team are the only paid personnel. We acknowledge all the work Kay Baker has undertaken and understand there is a submission already in hand to heat the pool and cover it externally. A huge thank you to her. We table this revised project concept, which includes the following assets. The committee collectively agree that a smaller therapeutic pool would be a significant advantage and attraction not only to the elderly, but to those recovering from injury, including sports. This would be a heated pool to a higher temperature than the main pool and be a similar size to a large spa pool. See the MEPS email attached. They are the consulting engineers. The existing pool cover is past its use-by date and needs to be replaced. We have attached quotes for modern covers that help retain the day pool temperature. The covers are automated and included in our proposal. So we see, in order of priority, we would like to cover the pool surface first, to heat the pool, and 3, the external roof open shut option, and 4th, the therapeutic small pool. Our plea is for our working group to work hand in hand with the council. There is an opportunity for our people to work with your people on this project. Let's meet more often. This pool complex will be a welcome all year round attraction. We want to collaborate and effectively work together. Please include this expanded submission in the 21-31 long-term plan.
Thank you, Graham. So questions for Graham?
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, very good presentation, Graham. You've made a concept drawing here, I see. So the therapeutic pool, is that above ground or is it in sunk ground type?
Open discussion on that, Terry, and the plan is indicative only of the positioning. So
okay.
Happy to consult on that.
Well, it sounds like you've got a great committee and some great ideas. So well done.
Thank you.
Graham, you've put the 4 components in sort of batting order.
Okay.
Sort of what sort, I know you'd like them all straight away, but sort of what sort of time frame do you see for them?
Happy to work with you guys on that and, you know, what we can achieve in the shortest time frame would be ideal.
Faster the better.
But the pool cover, I guess, is one of the easy options to attend to first.
And what's the urgency with that one?
Well, the old one has got holes in it and it's, you know, it really is past its use by date, yeah.
Graham, do you have construction costs for item 3 and 4
No,
It's three, we had three.
for the external
The
roof?
external roof,
yeah.
but I mean, that was 3 years ago, 2
Yeah,
years.
it might be the updating one.
I didn't need updating, but it's probably not, yeah. I can easily get that from Thames.
Okay, if there's no more questions, thank you very much, Graham. That's certainly something we can consider going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Public forum? Okay, if not, we will now move on to any items not on the agenda. However, someone like to move the public forum?
I'll move.
Dave, Tamsin, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Are there any items not on the agenda? There's not. And any conflicts of interest? And there are not, so we move on to minutes for confirmation.
Happy to move.
So moved by Terry, seconded by Kay. Open for discussion. Is there any discussion?
Just one that we've highlighted today, that we've missed one of the for the community board's grants accidentally, but we'll consider that down the line.
Sorry, I missed that. There was a bit of noise alongside.
There was an application for a grant that was missed unfortunately, but we'll look at that as we get down the line. Apart from that, I find the minutes is accurate and true record.
Do you want to just advise us all which one was missed?
It was an application from,
Enterprise Whangamata.
yeah,
It was,
it just slipped through the system, so we'll just,
It was received in time?
it was received in time, yes.
Okay, well, we can discuss that. Later on. Okay, moved by, if there's nothing else, moved by Terry, seconded by Kay. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now we move on to next item. Williamson Park Summer Festival. And we have the report there. Safe zone and security. I'll open up for discussion first.
Yes, so we see a quote there through the chair from Arthur Brown. It's for 3 days. Are you feeling comfortable with 3 days?
Do we need that first day, the 29th, or what about 2 days?
Yeah, the report actually mentions that if we went for 2 days instead of 3, there'd be a saving of, what was the figure? 3,800. Yeah, I'm of the view that having experienced the last couple of years without any major, certainly on the 29th, there weren't any major incidents that I can recall. That I think we should try just with the 2 nights, the 30th and 31st. And give us 3,800 that we can look to allocate somewhere else during the year. And if there are any incidents, then the police have got a big presence in town and they can deal with it. That would be my thinking.
So do you think the 2 days would be 5,000?
3,800 would come off, so it'd be 13,474, there's 3,800, would be 9,600 and whatever.
And will we be able to reallocate that budget to the CCTV? Or?
That's a separate discussion, but it would be funds that we could allocate for something anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Chair, I agree with Tamsin that there's an opportunity now to add another layer of protection with an extra camera or camera going into there.
Yeah.
And I think we've got the ability to click the camera on with the amount of storage or something like that with it. So, I'm not too sure what a camera would be, maybe Justin might be able to come with a number.
And we could follow that up and I could find out if we can actually use those funds for a camera.
Yeah.
So I can follow that up, find out if we can reallocate those funds for a camera and find out from Andrew how much it would cost.
And the timeframes are also very important.
Yeah.
Can I just make a slight comment here? Having spent much of my work involves CCT footage, and I can tell you if people know there are cameras, offending goes down dramatically. And as long as it can't be tampered with, if it's high enough, I'm sure it will add for far more security in the park.
Yeah, agree, Gary.
And the advantage is that it's so permanent as opposed to one night of security.
Yes, yeah, it's there all the time.
365 days benefit for 1 day's.
And it's straight on the policeman's phone as he's watching it. So in doing that, I suppose it's promotion of so talking about the CCTV camera issue out here, we'll bring later.
That'll come up later, yeah. Well, I'd like to move an amendment to the suggested recommendation. So number 2 will change from 13,474 to 9,674.
And the number of days.
And yeah, we probably should add in after the word for security at Williamson Park.
The 30th and 31st.
And after Williamson Park, add for the 30th and 31st
Okay.
of December. Just for clarity. Seconded by Dave. Further discussion? All those in favour?
No.
Against? Carried. So you can relay that to Arthur.
I will.
Thank you. Dave.
Are we talking about the safe zone here as well?
Same as,
Yeah.
as part of the resolution.
Well, we'll pass it, but you can talk about it if you want now.
Yeah, well, just making sure we approve the $200 for the safe zone. Is that any other support going there? We still just got the...
So
1587.
the 1587 is for the paramedics.
Oh, yeah, right.
That man, 200 is for the hire of the venue.
Yeah,
And of course, the price includes guards at the safe zone.
right, okay. So that's all Arthur Brown money though, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, not
No,
1587.
the 1500 is St John's.
That's St John's,
And
yes.
the $200 goes to the
Oh, right, okay. All good. Thank you.
So, moving on to swimming pool liaison rep. So it's quite a clear report. So we're looking to appoint a second liaison rep. So do we have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Kay Baker.
Senda by Tamsin. Any other nominations?
I would have to say that because of all problems that are happening in Auckland, it's like even if I wanted to come down, I go out the ring road. It's a 2.5 hour delay just to go out of Auckland. So whether or not it should be, I might be the backup to Kay.
And I think in reality that'll probably be the case given they choose Gary. But anyway, we'll have both names there. If you can both make it, that's cool. But otherwise, Kay, I'm sure, will be there most of the time.
Gary be back up.
And Gary can be back up, yeah. Okay, so we've got Kay nominated as liaison rep for the pool. And all those in favour? Against? Carried. Right. Well done, Kay. Add it to your list of meetings. Right, got discretionary grant application, and we have here, this is for the vehicle for the Community Services Trust. I wonder if because we are discussing this here, which is discretionary grant, would it be appropriate for us also to discuss the enterprise Whangamata under this item? Or we not got that info?
We don't actually have the info for the application. We can bring that back to the next meeting.
Okay, is there no urgency with it?
Well, it's got to happen sometime.
Okay.
I can just
I
bring
was
it
just
back.
trying to shortcut it. No.
Yeah.
we'll put
Yeah,
that aside.
you don't actually have the information and the application never went out publicly, so we better do
Okay.
it as a separate.
We'll give it a while. I was trying to segment the system.
Good try.
Okay, so we've got the report here. This is to provide some funds towards the Vehicle,
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit, that I've been engaged with Chris and Monique over this vehicle for about a year now. But they are building the funds up. There was discussion about the type of vehicle meeting the requirements and all that. And I think that should be clearly outlaid to them to make sure that they haven't got another, or what type of vehicle they're getting for those 15 grand or they're looking for. So we need to understand that, whether they're getting some support from a car manufacturer or a Ryan County Club, I don't know. To make sure that it fits the purpose. Is that what we're after?
The chair, I'm comfortable with granting the funds subject to us seeing an actual quote for the vehicle.
It's suitable.
Yeah.
Can I just say that this came to Lions last night? I've spoken to both of them in relation to this too, and for $12,000 or $15,000 they're going to get nothing.
No.
So what they really need to look at, and what we were suggesting through Lions, is that we do the same as what we did and make it a community project for them. But I am to have a meeting with them in the next few days to actually discuss it. The other point was that they intend putting a hoist on the back of it. Now, a hoist is $40,000 or $50,000 for on there, and whether there's justification for that. So the question I wanted to ask them was what purpose it's going to be used for, how often it's going to be used, and try and get it from there. And yes, whether somebody like Tunnicliffe is going to help them with it. So I think that there's too many questions to be answered yet before we can make a decision on it.
so if we change number 2, subject to the board being satisfied with the intended purchase or intended vehicle.
This one be safe to decline it, because you're saying.
Well, I think we did a provision, a grant for
Yeah, we did.
the dementia unit last year with a similar.
It was 3,000, I think we gave.
Yeah, I think it gives them, if we decline it, then they can't count on that money.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Whereas if it's got a provision around it, it gives them some certainty that it's more likely to go forward.
Through the chair, maybe it could be a two-pronged one, you know, because if it's a vehicle without a hoist, then the back doesn't need all that strengthening. So maybe if they're just going for a community service vehicle, you know, the cost would be, maybe Tunnicliffe is going to provide some support like the Toyota people do for rugby.
Well, I've never seen anything written right.
So I think we
put a
just-
hoist on it. That's all new to me. And I think given the difficulty it had getting to the 15 to 20,000 to get to 70,000, I think is pipe dream stuff personally.
It's a lot of cost.
So Dave's discussion with the B forward.
Yeah.
Understand clearly what's going on.
But I agree that a $15,000 van is not going to be fit for purpose, but no.
But I think we could put the money there. We approve the money, but we tag it to the vehicle.
Subject to the board being satisfied on intended use quotes and vehicle selected or something.
Yeah. So
And it would be great to have some numbers. They plan to transport.
Actual figures of,
yeah.
The other thing I spoke to them about was the fact that the vehicle, their present vehicle is left outside 24 hours a day in a car park. And if money was going to be put in a project, that I would suggest that they seriously look at some sort of security for the vehicle, because we don't want to put money that could be damaged on the side of the road.
They need a community hub, I think, to Ryan community hub to be able to cut it.
Absolutely.
Work on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've modified number 2, so would someone like to move moved by Kay, seconded by Tamsin. Okay, I'll put that, all those in favour? It's carried. Now moving to Anima Surf. So do we have Derek here who?
We're a little early, he's scheduled for 11, but I bet I can call him in.
He's just sent an email asking for a meeting.
Okay. So I think we probably need to know a little bit more about this.
So we could go to Bruce.
At least Bruce has got all the answers.
I don't have the answers, no. Derek was just saying he's just trying to get into the meeting. So,
No, I agree.
We can come back.
Yeah, while he's trying to get in this, can we move on to Oh, no, we're probably going. What about the parking bylaw? That's not a.
What about Bruce's?
Taking, oh, yes, Esplanade, yep. Page 53.
Adjustment.
So
We're not going to do 4.1.
4.1.
So,
No, that's 4.1, so biggie. Yeah.
We're going to parking bylaw.
This one we're talking about now.
So we've all seen the report about the issue with the Esplanade Drive and potential traffic issues there with cars parked. A few of us looked at it the other day and were of the view that there is some merit to it where we think the area marked out is probably a little bit too big.
Too big?
Yeah, because the parking's at a premium along there over the holiday period. And maybe rather than taking 6 metres, we carve that back to 3 metres.
3 metres?
Yeah.
3 metres. I think it would still have the same effect of not having a vehicle right on the end of that island, but it would just free up one more parking space. Yeah. So do you see any issue with that, Bruce?
I don't have all the details, so through the chair, I don't have all the details at hand, and I know the site. I'm just trying to picture it in my head and think about whether there's any risk that if you did it 3 metres, someone could get quite up close and they're quite far out from the curb, and then whether that could still cause you an issue, and whether the 6 metres is, obviously it's conservative. Yeah.
At the moment, they're parked right up here, so I can't see just 3 metres being an issue. It just allows people to walk over there and get through there. But at the moment, they park right to here.
And they don't use the footpath, they don't go over there because it's just bumpers push over there and it's no good. So
if you can make it 3 metres instead of the 6, it allows.
3 metres is probably not enough for a car space, but, so you're not going to, I don't think you're possibly going to gain a full car space by cutting it back.
Well,
that's all you've got down to the Freedom Camping.
3 metres.
3 metres.
I think you'd be surprised if you measured out
That's what the camping bylaw.
Oh, sorry, you're talking that way. Sorry.
Yeah. Not this way.
Sorry.
3 metres that way.
Yeah. I can't give you a good answer on that, unfortunately. I mean, a lot of utes are quite long now, so they stick out quite far.
We're not worried about it that way. It's this way.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking if the cars, a ute's parking is hanging out there, but
they're hanging out there
they're
now,
all
right
hanging
through
out
to here.
Yeah, no, I
You
get
can't
that.
walk
I
to
get
the
that.
steps.
Yeah,
It's
no,
the
I
only
understand.
decent steps there.
Yeah.
But really, we don't know how many complaints brought this up because there's just one, and it just seems to be a lot of.
Sure.
My preference would be to try 3.
You want to go 3? Yeah.
And then if it's not working, we can
change it.
it's just some more paint and we can change it
Yeah,
again.
no, we'll make sure we set it up so that we can go with the 3, and then, like you say, we'll come back later and add more if we need to. So
It's not a designated walkover area, but it is sort of a place for people who. Convenience, yes. It's more a chicane to slow people down.
the other option might be that, you do the boiler on the 6, but you mark the 3 in, and so that you've actually got like a full space if you need to come back later and have a paint, but at this stage you just paint the 3 metres out and try and run.
I think if you could make it a handicap car park and just paint the 3 metres there, and that gives you the gap, and then, because they're very rarely used.
It won't get used so much, but at least it provides a parking space. So how would we amend the resolution to incorporate that?
So I can say.
Well, it only
Council
says it on.
amendments, I'm just trying to look at what the amendment says. So you'd have to just change the restriction length from 6 metres to 3 metres, if that's what you're looking to do.
Recommends the council amends it.
Yeah, see, it's got 6.
Was James going to call into this?
Doesn't say any distance in it.
Just haven't responded
Yeah,
yet.
it only says it on the drawing over the back, on the chart here.
Yeah, it's just the 6 metres here.
6 metres under the restriction.
Well, maybe we just change the second resolution
Yeah.
subject to the restriction being 3 metres rather than 6. What does that?
I'll include a table to make it kind of stand alone.
Just bring Brian into this as regulatory manager.
Yeah, he's the
After
man.
my laws, he's itching to get into the conversation.
I'm just trying to, advise my deputy. Through the chair, the adjustment of 3 metres seems fine. If you're going to look at the disability car park, that would be, I think we want to push that back to Ronan. Having read the justification, this seems to be damage to signs as vehicles having to come up that curve. I mean, from our perspective, we might have done it all the time, but it was inconsiderate parking, we'd be restricting people anyway. And to just ease your concerns, Bruce, I think 3 metres would be fine.
Okay.
Even if there was a vehicle at that 4 metre marker sticking out.
There's still enough space to get around.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Can I make a comment, please? One of my observations have been, because I'm often walking past there, is the surrounds around the trees which cause the people to have to avoid them, whether they middle bit and hitting it, because it's a pretty, if they're backing out or anything, it's what you can sell tickets. It's an extraordinarily difficult part to get out of if you're reversing out. Whether there could be some consideration of making those surrounds around the trees a bit smaller, and that might alleviate some of the problem.
Yeah, so through the chair, I hear what you're saying, Gary, but I don't think we'd change that, obviously, because then you get too much damage of the roots, with people getting closer to them. So I think the space around the trees is probably appropriate, but I hear what you're saying around the backing out. I think if we went with the 3 metres, like what's been proposed by the board, I think that would cover us, and that would actually alleviate a little bit of that backing issue. There's no accounting for some backing skills, obviously, but I think 3 metres, I'd be comfortable with that, subject to the discussion and Brian's advice.
Okay.
Okay, so we've changed the table now to read 3 metres. It's set out below, so someone like to move that?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Okay, second by Dave. Any further comments? If not, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Right, so now we can move back to the item, the Whangamata toilet. Yep. So do we have Derek on board?
Good morning, Chair. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Derek. Welcome.
Just coming online for camera as well, hopefully. Supposedly. But anyway, we'll carry on. Hopefully the camera will kick in.
We can see you now, so you can behave.
Thank you. So this paper is about creating a toilet, a single pan disabled accessible toilet within the existing building of the Whangamata Surf Lifesaving Club as part of their renovation works. So this toilet will be some compensation for the loss of the public toilets which are going as part of the toilet works or the surf club works, and it will allow for the public to have a accessible facility close by the playground. We've had an estimation of around about $25,000, and that's from the builder who's currently doing the works at the moment. And he believes he can fit it into his work program before Christmas. So this paper is asking for the board to consider the cost of $25,000 for those works.
And Derek, I understand that there isn't currently a budget for the work that was taken out of when the budgets were reviewed. Is that correct?
Yes, budgetary. There was 25k in the budget, and that's no longer there. So that's a consideration that the board has to make.
A further question. I understand that the Surf Club has received external funding for their renovations, quite a considerable figure. If their renovations have removed the public toilets, why weren't public toilets incorporated in the rebuild?
Sorry, do you mean why would they not included as part of the funding application?
Yeah.
I can't answer that. That's the club would have made that application on behalf of the club to Trust Waikato, and I'm not quite sure why why they would have considered a public facility. That was purely for the club.
Yeah, but there was a public facility which they're effectively now removing. Am I correct?
That's correct, yes.
So why wouldn't we have looked to them to incorporate its reinstatement when they rebuilt?
I can't answer that question, I'm sorry, Chair. I wasn't involved in any of those negotiations.
Were there any negotiations?
That's a good question. I can't answer that one, sorry.
Through the chair,
Yeah.
why was the 25,000 taken out?
Oh, that was because they were trying to keep the costs down because of COVID, etc. It was one of the casualties. Yeah. But it just seems to me if they were going to go and seek funding from external forces, sources, not forces, could be forces, that it would have been nice to consider putting back what they're taking away. Yes.
Through the chair, I just want to ask Derek a question, if that's okay. Derek, is this, do we own that building?
I believe that the building has been sold to the Whangamata Surf Lifesaving Club.
Okay, right, so that means that the 25,000 will be OPEX, not CAPEX, if we don't own the building?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Did they just receive through the chair a grant through the government for, was it 225,000? How much did they receive just recently from the National Surf Lifesaving? Was it 200,000 or 300,000? No, I think Hotwater Beach got that. You know, Derek?
No, sorry,
it's quite a substantial amount. I know the Whangamata Surf Club sucked their breath in.
So if they own the building and they own this concrete block building, should this fall into the, is that what you're going to say, Donna? It should fall into their lap?
They received 317.
300, yeah.
Yeah, what I was referring to with OPEX is the board just needs to be aware of the costs.
Yes.
It's a lot more than
Impact on
just
rates.
a 25,000 CAPEX project. It's a much bigger impact on rates than if it was CAPEX.
It's about $5.30 per rate long term.
Yeah.
When did they take ownership of the building, Derek?
I'm sorry, I don't have that answer.
So through the chair, I think was that through Gary Taylor when he was the area manager, Derek?
So there would have been a deal that would have been signed up at that stage in terms of when they actually took over the building. I would imagine it would have been very close to when the contract work started.
It's pretty extraordinary that a surf club can own property on council land. I just find that I wasn't aware of that. I think it's quite unusual.
I'm just trying to understand this. If I just read, the community board has several options. Retain the existing male toilets and continue to operate them as male-only toilets. Approve a budget request for so much money to allow the transformation of the existing male-only facility into a single-pan disability accessible facility. So is there 2 toilets here at the moment? Look at this one. And we're going to leave one for the man and turn the other one into a disabled toilet?
No. The surf club are using
one.
Surf club are using one half of it.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Derek. So that leaves just one toilet, which at the moment is the male toilet. And what the report is proposing is if the board are interested in having a male-female disability accessible one toilet, then you spend this money and do that. So
just for that one toilet?
Yeah.
Inside the toilet, nothing else to the building, just that toilet?
Derek, it's just the toilet, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that's in its simplest form. Yes, there's 2 rooms, so there's actually a fair number of toilets in the female side of things, and they're being subsumed or taken over entirely by the club. So on the other side is the male room, and at the moment in there is currently 2 pans and a urinal and a changing space, and that leaves enough space because that was designed some years ago. It doesn't meet current standards. However, to redesign that, it only really allows for the redesign of one accessible pan, which does allow for some changing facilities as well. So being a unisex facility that can be then used by male or female.
So the disability access store with the chain facilities, is that where the 25 grand comes into putting that facility to make it disabled?
Well, yes, it's quite a, well, when I say large room, it does have a single toilet in it, but it's a relatively large room.
So through the chair, who are the main people that are using the male-only facility? And are they able, if it's a female, are they able to use the surf club's toilet?
No, there's female and males there.
Yeah, so we're saying that the female toilet's owned by the surf club and the male is owned or operated by the council, is that?
Well, the female ones are taken over for the male, for the surf club, owned by the surf club, and the male ones are turning into a unisex toilet with disabled. And I just worry about disabled people trying to get into that across the sand, you know. There's the one down the bottom in the car park.
Yeah, that's for disabled people. What are they on about? There's 2 disabled toilets there.
Yeah, so I don't think we need to put disabled up here.
No.
We're just going to decide we can put one for females or not.
But so if you're a female and you came along, you'd be able to use the surf club's toilet?
No, that won't be accessible, I don't think.
No,
so they'll be locked?
I think we need to put a unisex on there.
So we're talking about unisex, but not a disabled.
But at the moment, it's male only, so if we do nothing with a female.
No, there's 4 or 5 female toilets here and 2 male. And they're taking the female ones and turning them into males for the surf club. And the 2 male ones, the rooms are turning them into a unisex toilet with disabled facilities.
But that's up for discussion, right?
Yeah.
So if we did nothing, that'd be just a male toilet. Public
What
toilet.
about the female lifesaving?
Well, I think like what we're saying is that the Surf Lifesaving Club, they might be closed, you know, so if you go there after hours, they're not open, therefore, all you can get access to is one male toilet, so.
One is unisex toilet.
Yeah, the idea if you go with this would be one unisex.
But not the disabled part of it, that's where the cost is.
Excuse me, but you get access to the new 2 new toilets that have been built, the total for Rory was about. So
Yes.
I just think we're reinventing the wheel. We've already got disabled access to 2 perfectly decent toilets with plenty of changing room inside. So I just don't why this is happening.
Yeah. I think through the chair, I think it's because it's up by the playground as opposed to down at the car park where the new toilet is. But Derek, my question, just a quick question for you, Derek, is whereabouts has this kind of come from? Who's kind of pushing for this, I suppose? Where is this idea actually birthed from?
You mean to turn an existing toilet into a unisex?
Correct.
I believe this came about right from the beginning of the negotiations with the surf club, because of the loss of a toilet next to the playground and also where a lot of people do congregate around near the surf club. So but to remove all public toilets from that location was seen as a bad thing, particularly because you've lost the toilets at the playground. Now, we talked about disabled accessible. That's to some extent, that's just a term in terms of the amount of space that is available inside the stall. It does allow for changing to happen, and also the intent is to have a baby change facility in there as well. So it's just the space that's available to the punters.
Yeah, so disability access is not going to actually push the cost up more. You're not going to save a lot of money by not going to that.
Well, I suppose you could go to the extent of a fully disabled accessible, talks about a range of implements such as wash basins, etc. That's not the intention to provide them to that sort of standard. It's the size of the stall, as I reiterated before, which does allow for changing to occur inside it. So if you're talking about a normal pan or normal stall, there's absolutely no space in that area. You could shut the door, go about your business, but you can't really change, as opposed to a normal disabled facility does have space off to the side. You'll have a flip down bench there. People can put their clothes on it, get changed, and then move on out.
Have you looked at the 2 new toilets that is down on Whangamata? You've been inside those?
Yes, that's correct. And I think that was part of the planning to provide those toilets in terms of losing this potential facility.
Yeah,
so,
and it perfectly covers the whole thing of changing, disability, the whole works. And as I say, we're reinventing the wheel. And while I'm just talking, can you please provide me the information how that became the surf club's ownership? Because I just find that extraordinary.
I'm sorry, I can't. I wasn't
No,
involved.
well, you can find someone in the council that can let me have a look.
We'll go back
and look at that.
We'll go back and find the records. It sounds like that actually was transferred quite a long time ago to the surf club. The other thing is that we've got a pump station control panel at one end of that building, which we've had for a long time for our wastewater pump station. So it sounds like well, it's our pump station, but as part of the arrangement with the surf club was that we still have access to our pump station controls.
Oh, you've got an easement on.
Yeah, so was obviously an arrangement made quite a few years ago, and I think what this is trying to do now is just formalise something around the actual toilet facilities. But one last question for Derek was, what's the minimum cost, Derek, as far as to do something at that site for a toilet for both male and female? What's the?
Can we not just change the sign? Is that not?
You mean to cut it down to a normal pan size?
Yeah, so what's the minimum you could get away with to have, like Thames is suggesting, you just have a unisex toilet, change the sign?
You'd probably get away with something for about 15k.
Well, what if you've already got 2 toilets there now, Derek? All you can do is take the name off the wall that says ladies.
Change the lock on the main door.
And just change the lock on the main door and you've got the toilet. Spend 15k on a pool.
With respect, you can't make that safe for users, for male and female users, the way it currently is orientated.
You can't have like children going in there to use, you know what I mean? You need to have one door that opens into it, so you can only one person in at a time effectively, rather than letting people go inside the toilet, and then inside the toilet there's 2
But wouldn't you
stalls.
just put the lock on the main door?
On the outside wall.
Possibly, yeah. So
Just like
Just a switch lock.
and it's either
Engaged.
occupied or it's vacant. And
possibly, yeah, there'd be a bit of change required to do that from memory about what the doors are like on the outside, because it's a different style of door. But what's your thoughts on that, Derek?
Yeah, it's possible. It's pretty. It definitely needs a lot of work done inside it. That's for sure. We could rip out the urinal and put in some changing bench in there.
You're still up for 10 or 15k, is what you're thinking?
Yeah. Way less than that if that was the board's direction.
Through the.
so Thames and the East.
Sorry, through the chair. So do we know how the decision was made to remove it from the budget? So obviously there was justifiable reason to remove it at that stage. Why is it now only 4 months later?
We chopped it out of the budget. It wasn't popped back in.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't know why it's suddenly come back in again, because we were looking at taking things out of the budget that we could get away this year.
And obviously it needed to be removed, so.
Just popped up again. So I also just got a question through the chair if I can. It
No,
says,
sorry, Kay was next.
I'm sorry. I won't.
I'm just, I'm a bit like Terry, confused and Tamsin why it actually never was put in there. But aside from that, there needs to be a toilet, some kind of toilet for the public at that facility.
At that location.
It has to be there. Otherwise, we're back with the same problem we had when we built the new toilets down on the park, because it was too far. The surf club was too far from the swimmers down on the flat, so that's why the new toilets were put there. And now we're going to have the same problem if we take it away from the kids' car park and the kids' playground.
Through the chair, I feel like we don't have enough information. We don't know why the decision was made at council, and so we probably need to.
Well, whether we have that information or not, the decision was made as a fact, so I don't know whether.
Through the chair, I don't think you're going to, Ken's right, you're not going to get any more information about, it was basically when the annual plan was being done, elected members had to make a number of concessions and work through projects that had to be dropped.
But so clearly we didn't have the money for it then, so why would we have the money for it?
So possibly we don't, I guess that's the board decision, that's what the board needs to decide, how important they think it is to do this and do it now versus leaving it.
Well, it's really important, I'm sorry.
Terry.
Yeah, I just agree with what's going on here. I want to understand, it says here in the summary paragraph at the end, due to the removal of the females facility, it is admitted to transform this area into a single pan, which is fine, take 1 pan out, disabled accessible stall with a chain facility inside. Is that supposed to be a changing facility?
Apologies for the typo. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, that's right. So if we just turn it into 1 toilet, take the other pan out, and put a wash hand basin in there, and that's it?
Make it unisex.
You say that's 15k?
No.
Well, my suggestion is we leave the 2 pans in there. We take out the urinal. We have the door, the external door is lockable from the inside, so you can only have one person in at a time unless it's a family. So you might have a parent and a child could both go in there, and they've got 2 toilets. And you just have, and then further down the track, when we've got more money, we can look to do something better. But at this stage, funds are tight. I think we should try and have a toilet facility out there. I agree with Kay, we do need one with the playground, etc. But we want to make it as economic as possible in these times. So rather than going major expenditure, if we can do it for less than 10, I'd be happy to support that.
Smart.
So just going back to the lease, I've actually found a document about the transfer of the building, and it was a council resolution on the 29th of May, 2018, where it approved the transfer of the existing toilet block for consideration to the Whangamata Surf Club, delegates authority, chief executive, to execute all necessary documents to effect the transfer of the property to the surf club. Approves a ground lease between the council and Whangamata Surf Club for 33 years.
Then he talked about keeping a toilet for public, isn't it?
Not in this one, but that answers Gary's question about how it became the surf club's building.
Okay, was that carried through? Did they actually execute and do all that?
Well,
That's
we'll
just an intention.
We'll need to follow that up from here. That's the, at least we know that there was a resolution which transferred the block to the surf club, but we can follow up anything else.
Yeah, but that's not a lease. That's just that's saying we'd like to do that. That's we agree to do it, but has it been done?
We need to follow that through here and ask that question through the chair. John, I think John Mason's coming on, Munson's coming on later, isn't he? Yeah, so we've got a question for John when he comes on.
Through the chair, Derek, is there any time pressure on this one?
It's just that the builder's on station, and he can do the works. Look, may answer Ken's point earlier. There might be 2 issues around this. There might be the building consent works that have been approved for the surf club might have an impact upon what needs to be produced in terms of the public toilet. I'm not quite sure. However, going back to your earlier comment, I feel sure that we can probably do something as what you've indicated, just ripping the urinal out and putting in a door lock.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
For way less than 10k, we'll be able to do that relatively cheaply, 5 to 7k.
Okay. My suggestion through the chair would be then just change the resolution up to a maximum of 7k. You know, and go with that.
And if the club wants to do more with it while they're doing it, they're welcome. It's their baby.
We've got to get it done by.
The renovations of the public. Well, it won't be the renewals budget. Well, it'll be an operational budget.
It's an operational budget.
Yeah.
So it's about $1.48 per rate.
Recommends council to approve a budget of up to $7,000.
Reinstate the toilet to
renovate. Was it renovate or? I suppose it's the right word. To renovate.
Modify.
Yeah.
To modify
Existing.
And I don't think the disability part should be in there because there's
that won't be with us. No. Further down the track when we
come back.
We can come back to it in a later project.
Can I just raise one more point? My understanding, reading all that information about the opposition to the toilets, which are now there, was that there was going to be no more public access to the surf club. The surf club were having it for themselves. So they had the toilets down the bottom. So why are we revisiting to make it public for the surf club? It's their business. They're getting the money. Let them do what they want to do.
It's a good point.
We're providing it for the public, especially those using the playground up there with young children.
Well, if they can't walk, if they can't get down to the toilets, it's 100 and a bit metres. There's
young children often don't give you much notice. I
don't think it's, and you go there, you've got a chance of one out of two. Down you go to the surf club.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Okay, we vote against it, Gary.
Through the chair though, Mr Chairman, I think that it needs a toilet there because there's also the tennis courts. Now, if you've got young kids and one of the older ones wants to go to the toilet, you're not going to be able to leave those little kids there while you go down to the toilet with the other one. You'd have to take the whole lot of them with you. So why wouldn't you just put a unisex toilet there? They're already there. We're being offered the space. Just let's do it.
Well, if we'd had that, we wouldn't have to worry about the toilets down the bottom. I can't believe it.
They're different issues. But anyway, well, I'd like to move that alteration there, so I'd like to send by Kay.
Just read them again. No, there's some discussion around it for sure, because it's their building, like any development coming along, we'd be told just to do it, and be part of their deal, but we're being very kind to these people for some reason.
Yeah, for unisex public use, put the word unisex.
Just through the chair, does this make any difference in relation to the continual cleaning in that of it? Who does that and who pays for that?
Well, it would already be in the existing budget. There's toilets there at the moment being cleaned, so it shouldn't have any impact. So it's only the 7,000 OPEX, which would be $1.30 or something you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$1.48 roughly.
$1.48. Well, it's up to 7, so hopefully it can be a little bit less than that. Okay, so we have moved by myself, seconded by Kay. So I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against?
I'm against.
Gary's against and Gary's abstained, so declare it carried. Do you want your vote recorded, Gary?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's going to be jumping up and beating of drums after this, I'm quite sure.
Okay.
Don't think you've thought this through.
Right, moving on. So we now move to the week programme. So we have the work programme there and go through it by page, if members can indicate anything they'd like to have discussed. We have officers here. On the first page, anything anyone wants to bring up?
Just an update on Wentworth Valley Road would be.
Yeah, so there's a comment in there with the update. There's no further update at this stage.
When are we expecting it to be completed?
So we're aiming to get it completed before Christmas.
Okay.
And when is the commencing? September, so we've got 9 days to go.
I'll come and talk to you in 9 days.
Are we going to need a consent alteration for this?
For the Wentworth Valley ceiling, Gary?
No, sorry, sorry, I was still thinking about the toilet. And that's
unlikely, I would suggest the toilet. I don't know if Derek's still online, but unlikely because all we're doing is taking the urinal out. You'd be capping that plumbing and that would be it. So I would say unlikely.
No, sorry, no, continue on with Wentworth.
Okay. Yeah, so I haven't got an update further to what Steve Brenner's put in here. The other thing I should say about the work programme is we've tweaked how this is done a little bit, and my team have picked this up now, which hopefully will streamline things and cut down on people like Eileen and her team running around, and Jen running around trying to get updates. Is now all sitting with my team. So we've tweaked the table a little bit, the work programme one, and I'm happy to, this will keep evolving over time, but we've put the name of the project manager in there. We've put a few more columns in around budget so that as we progress through the year, we can actually start giving you a bit more update on forecast cost, if it's going to be less or more, and then also expected completion date. So this will just get more rich as we move through the year. But yeah, Wentworth Valley, we're back into that, but I don't have any further updates, sorry.
Okay, Terry.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the Whangamata Harbour renewals, quickly.
Yes.
So it talks there about the structural repairs. We look at the budget, 193,393, and forecast 193,393. So actual's only 4,143. So they've done the repairs on the wharf, I understand?
Yes.
On the concrete structures. So what does that cost?
I don't have that figure, but what I would say is the reason you're not seeing that reflected is this is only to the end of August, and it looks like the costs haven't come through for that, and possibly that's why you're not seeing the numbers come through.
Good to see those numbers for that. And it also talks about the detailed scope of work required to refurbish the adjacent concrete floating pontoon. It's currently being finalised. Are we privy to those designs?
Yes, so once we've done the scope, we can bring that back to the board and have a discussion, because we've obviously got a bit of time there. There's no time pressure on that one, so there's no problem at all to bring that back and back to the board.
Are you certainly keen to get involved?
Understand it, sure, yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's that one. What else was there?
Anything else on page 1 or well, page 51? Okay, page 52.
Boardwalk, do we have that full estimate through yet?
Yeah, is Ross not online yet? He's not.
Apparently Ross is going to update us later on that one, but it would be nice to have it.
And just quickly on the reserve car park reseals.
Yes.
You raised through, I'm not sure if you were here last time, Bruce may not know about it, but in Williamson Park, where the car parking is currently, it's on a sandy, messy little cutouts.
Yes.
And it was likely to get those areas sealed. Has that come through to you on your work program?
It hasn't come through to me on that one, no. I did have some detail, which I'm just trying to quickly find about where, what car park, reserve car park were being sealed under that.
When they did one originally, they did one up the top as you come around the corner, it was fine, but they left the other 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces as just sandy ground, which is
okay.
would have been great if they just put some tarry stuff down there.
Put a bit of chip seal down.
I think the problem is they've tarred it, then they've got a concrete strip on the side.
Yes.
So the sand is eaten away from the concrete strip. So when you go on the concrete strip, it drops down about 1 inch.
Yeah.
And that's all the way along the driveway to the.
Yeah, that can happen. It's very sandy, you know, the sand, gets blown out of there, and you do end up with that drop off. So that might be something we need to look at that, where we just need to try and pack some material back in there, maybe put a topsoil and get some grass growing.
Well, the grass doesn't work because it's on sand, so some chip seal would be great.
Yeah.
Because people, you know,
Christmas is going to be hideous.
Okay.
Even if they pack it up or something.
Yeah, okay.
Bruce,
it's about $80 to $100 per square metre for chip seal, so.
Yeah, well, you got 32K.
So I'll double check and see what I'll go back and find out what car park they were going to do the resealing on. Because the issue is, you know, if you push out a reseal on a car park, which is actually due for it or overdue for it, you're potentially going to cost yourself a lot more money by not doing it.
But whose job is it to actually check up on these things?
So our roading crew, our roading guys will check up on that, and they'll be
They're
monitoring
getting worse and worse. I mean, it's been a while now.
So this is the challenge, I suppose, is that, you know, you've got 32,000 and a number of reserve car parks. So, you know, obviously for staff and for the board, we're trying to balance out the expenditure versus what needs to be done.
So which ones are being planned then?
So that's what I'm going to go back and find.
Yeah, because
I've just tried to have a look.
They've just done a session around those some while ago, and I can't think where they're going to do the next car park.
So Williamson Park is actually quite important for the Christmas crowd.
Thanks, Ross. Scott Ross.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Ross.
You sound like you're in a tunnel.
I just want to go on the work program before you go to Ross, is that right?
Well, this is on the work program.
Is that, oh, you're going back to the
Thames and had a question.
You there, Ross?
Yeah, I'm there now.
That's better.
Okay. I've just got a bit of an overview for the boardwalk. Do you want to start there?
Yeah.
Okay. Can everyone see the plan on their screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So just a little reminder, we're looking at the last time we went to the board, that was in August, there was a decision to continue with the detailed design of the stage 1, which is that purple area there along Esplanade, and progress further with certificate of compliance for the future stages all the way through to Hunt Road. And that was also contingent on talking to Doc and continuing conversation with iwi. And
Get back to me, you know who the cop is, and I'll get hold of them. Okay. Okay.
sorry.
Thank you.
Right. Is my presentation still up, or has that been jumped out?
It's been kicked out.
Okay, I'll just redo that. Okay, how's that?
Yeah, we can sort of see it.
I'll make it bigger.
Okay. So the revised concept plan just took Esplanade, so we've obviously gone a bit further on that, and then just a little bit of reminder around the concept plan and the design methodology. Since the time we spoke, we've installed the 10-metre trial section. That went really well, and it's in there at the moment. Don't know whether you've had a chance to have a look at it. Trial period's coming up towards the end of next month. We will do another engineer's assessment on it. But I haven't heard personally, we've had some submissions early on. Don't know whether the board have heard anything more about it from the community at this stage.
Only positive feedback on it.
It's brilliant. Okay. The boardwalk trial thing worked really good. We checked it regularly, and it did hold its place well. So
right.
That worked well.
Oh, that's really good. Okay. So I guess we'll just a little bit of a summary here. So some of the key points for the project were to just de-risk it around consenting. And so we've managed to secure district consent for the district planning team for the length all the way through to Hun Road, which is great. So from a resource consenting perspective, they consider the boardwalk to be a permitted activity. So if anyone's got any concerns from an RMA perspective, we've got that now, which is great. We've also secured the consent from Regional Council. So there is no need for either a district planning consent or a Waikato regional consent as part of this project all the way through to Hunt Road. I guess the other thing as well is, so there's a sort of the second part is that community perspective that you know as a board are well aware of, and what we're trying to do now is sort of a piece. I mean, it has a number of different benefits, but community were really keen on a natural approach, so we've done that through cutting and scaling back of the design, and that design culminating in the trial. It's also relocatable, which is great. So that's sort of, even though Jim Darm has assured us on a number of occasions the alignment is well landward of any coastal erosion processes, at least this the way it's been constructed can be shifted in sections. We will have a talk about costs, and there'll be probably some varying opinions of whether it is cost effective or not, and I'll go into that in a minute, but it definitely is compared with a traditional constructed boardwalk methodology there. So then we've got this element of the dock marginal strip and a concession. Sorry about the spelling, I've just done this fairly quickly. So we had to go through meeting some of the key points that dock require. Does it meet the recreation values? Yes. Does it? Is there public perception? Has there been consultation on it? We've well and truly done that. The ecological values, does it have any effect on the ecology? And we've got an ecological assessment that tells us this is a good thing. And that's basically that Jim Darm has sort of raised this as the critical part of the project, is that it allows for a dedicated route for pedestrians, and then you can actually start planting up the dunes, and that creates a lot more long-term stability. We've got an archaeological assessment done, and we are in the throes of communicating and having a series of hui with iwi. And I'll just go through a little bit quickly on that. So initially, iwi were very keen on the opportunity to have their say and basically tell their story a little bit. as part of it, and it's culminated in an opportunity for some interpretive signing and also some design elements as part of the detailed design. So they were very keen on being able to tell their story from their perspective, but in a subtle way. And I think you'll see in a minute it's going quite well. So we had a number of hui's, 2 hui's so far, and they're very supportive of the esplanade. There's still a question mark on the principles of putting a boardwalk in the northern section, but at this stage the board's not going through with that part of the scheme yet. The last hui we had, they talked about 5 key themes for the boardwalk, sort of talking around moana and the importance of Whangamata from a moana food source for iwi. Vistas, the sort of geological kind of character that includes the islands and the headlands. Fishing obviously is a big one. Mata or obsidian, so there's a place where obsidian was traded a lot, and you'll see in the further slides that we're talking about, we're about to hopefully look at that. The islands and surfing. So since that time, our landscape architect's gone away and had a look at how we could incorporate that, and we've sent that back to iwi. They're very keen on this idea of pinau as being used for sort of securing or tying things, or lashing, fastening ornaments, fastening or weaving rope for sea, for boating and all that sort of thing. So the idea is to include some of that suggested lashing or fastening into just the way that the boardwalk's constructed. And you can see the idea is that there's some boards that are just a different arrangement at those 3 kind of or key nodes basically. It's quite subtle, but it's not too expensive in terms of construction. It's not over the top, but it does create a nice little nod to that. There was also a little bit more work being done looking at how the Graham Street node could work. So the idea was there was sort of 3 key areas where people could stop or kind of a little bit more interaction or some interpretive signage, some seating. This area here at Graham Street, you allow for pedestrians to come up the future footpath down on the road there, up and through to that main beach access point and the shower and the existing puhutakawa trees. The idea is to have some sort of feature there, and this is, I guess, there's a bit of a discussion to be had with yourselves around how that, this is an example of how it might work. The seating that's shown there is bespoke, but I think it's gonna just be way too expensive. It's a nice idea, but I think, this is my personal opinion, is that focusing on the bread and butter of the actual walkway. You've got it going into a concrete or wood, but at this stage a concrete area in the middle there, which could have some sandblasting of some images or some wording or something there subtly in the concrete. The cost comparison between that and wood construction is actually quite comparable. So we've still, just to let you know, we're still getting all of the final costs together, so it's likely we'll have that to you guys at the next board meeting. So you've got everything in front of you, and you can basically have a look at some of the options, have a look at the costs, and make an informed decision. But one idea is to put some reference to Mata or the obsidian possibly into the concrete. You could have some black flecks in there or something like that. So good look, but it starts from the southern end, and basically you have your it's almost like a traditional build where it adjoins the existing boardwalk, so that area there, and then it rolls out for the wire construction. There will be some rearrangement of seating. So where those red seats are, those are the existing seats and tables. Look at pushing them over to the sort of the seaward side where people can go and sort of sit down like they are used to. But the idea is to sort of spread them along the boardwalk a little bit more consistently. The rubbish bins also just putting them off that curb line area and more into the dune area just to stop vehicles hitting them. We would look at possibly, depending on what you think as a board, a new suite of rubbish bins just so it all looks good and fresh. And we did look at the options of refurbishing some of the seats that are existing there, and we're just in the throes of getting some costs for a range of different furniture for you to look through. Some of the furniture is quite old and it's probably going to be as expensive to refurbish rather than just sort of starting fresh in this area. So what this includes, so you've got the existing staircase there that'll be that remain the same, but there's a suggestion here that there is another access point to a node. So that's opposite I can't remember what beach access number it is, but it's one of the sort of more significant beach accesses that does a bit of a dog leg before it goes down to the beach. And there's an opportunity to repeat seating and possibly some shading, similar to the southern end there. So you come out and you come across the stairs, and then you've got some seating and shading, repeated access seating and shading. And then further down to Graham Street edge is the more sort of focus on that note. The existing shower stays. There's a possibility of bringing up the boardwalk to that shower and then connecting in through to the beach access way. So that's the draft. I'll send it back for you to look at and to comment. There's some examples of some of the seating and the furniture. We're still putting that together. So just a bit of a reminder around the original budget. It was originally 500,000, and then just due to the COVID measures, there was some rationalisation of that. So it's 295. The estimate that I presented at the 16th of March meeting basically would have met that original budget. So we've still got some ways to go to look at how we make this work. There is the opportunity or possibility too of finding some additional budget, and I've spoken to finance, but I need that confirmed. That would not have a rating impact, but we can talk about that at the next meeting. But that's basically a reserve. I can see you looking, Donna. I'll stop there.
Terry,
we've got a couple of questions for you.
Yep.
Thanks for the update, Ross. Really good. Yep. So just to confirm, how many beach accesses will actually be along that boardwalk, that section? Yep. How many?
Yep. So that there'll be all of the beach accesses will remain. So we're not removing any of them. So when you look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11 along there. And I mean, that's the main entrance to Whangamata. Everyone wants to get the beach from there, so we've decided to just keep them all there. What has changed, I guess, is formalising some of from the road to the boardwalk, and there's that new one that's in the middle there. Right.
Are they thinking about angling the beach accesses? Any discussion around that?
Yeah, we did have lots of discussion around that, and we also talked to Doc this week about that, but. Jim Darm suggested we keep the accesses as they are, because when you change them, there's all sorts of problems re-establishing planting, and also it's quite a short section of dune, and people want to go straight down. So Jim's opinion was to keep it as it is and just bolster up planting, and it allows for direct access.
Are you thinking of putting some decking or boardwalk down them? Like you did on the temporary one?
So we've had another discussion about that. And at the moment, so I mean, there's obviously some issues with hard structures and how close they get to the sea because of the erosion issues, and I think we're still working through that with the department, Lou, and also Jamie, our coastal scientist as well. A lot of the old exposed structures are from prior to the amalgamation of council, I think a long time ago, and prior to DOC having that control and manage and the ownership of that esplanade. So they were built a long time ago, and have just been sitting there, sort of unformalised or not on the department's books and not on our books. And the idea, I think, longer term is to just create a bit more of a natural approach to the access points. So maybe doing away with the hard structures over time. So where they're exposed, take them away, and then it could be a case of either just having those bollards and ropes to keep people on the same line. And
I understand the ropes and things. This is on the ground. The rolled out tracking was considered, or some method of walking down. You can't just leave it as sand, because it's very difficult for people to track down there.
Yep. Okay. So on the 5th of next month, we'll be out there with Doc and Jamie and Lou to just have a bit of a chat about how long term that's going to work. So maybe someone from the board might want to attend. It might be a good idea as well. And then we might have to have a bit of a summary of what was decided.
I think they're important if you're not an angle. Okay, and the last one is just quickly the platform that was removed. Did you talk to Doc about that?
We did talk about that, and that basically we would. My understanding is, are you looking at putting it back again?
Yeah.
Yep. So that could be considered as part of the concession with this application. But the main points that Doc had were anything new that goes in there, it needs to be. Sorry. That they will look at it. I mean, we've got to meet the same tests as the boardwalk in terms of, is iwi happy with it? Is it does it have any effects? So I mean, all of those are probably be able to be dealt with quite easily, and then it's a case of I guess putting that in with the concession at the same time as this.
Okay, thank you.
For as long as it does go in, Ross.
So Ross, are you saying that those rates that you've got included within this document were the original rates from the estimate last year, and that we have achieved that cost saving with the construction?
Yeah, there's quite a big cost saving with the construction. So it was. I mean, you could look at a traditional method about $2,500 per linear metre. We're now around about 800 per linear metre. That's for construction of the boardwalk. So there's a big saving there.
But is that 2.5 what was included in the estimate last year?
Yes, I have to double check that, but that's most. When the department and others, Department of Conservation, build traditional boardwalks, it's around 2.5. That was what it would cost down by the surf club there, because it was such a substantial structure.
We didn't include anywhere near that though in the original estimate.
Not in the estimate that we had last time, no. But I'm just saying that if you went back to the traditional method, because the estimates were, I think, a hybrid of joists and decking, and then with no foundations, so they were slightly lower than the 2.5. All I'm saying is that 2.5 is what you usually do expect that sort of boardwalk construction to cost per linear metre.
Ross, I'm just interested if there's only one shower along that whole beachfront. Would you think there should be one at maybe every second beach walk down?
I mean, that's up to. I think you guys have raised that before. We can look at. So you were thinking one at that Graham Street, and then possibly one at number 4.
One down by the surf club and one in the middle, and keep the one at the Graham Street entrance.
One at Hunt Road.
Yeah. So the only thing would that would add to the cost, obviously. You'd have to get the water there and then just pay for that. So what we could do is include the costs in the total, but look at it separately, and then you can have a look at the whole thing and see what you can add and what you can subtract in November.
So Ross, you'll bring this, you'll send the information out to board members, and you'll be coming back to us in November for a final sign-off.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I ask a question, Ross? It's Gary here.
Yep.
You mentioned the word shades. You're thinking of putting some shades up.
Yes.
I can't, because I'm doing long distance. I can't really see it large enough to be able to read it.
Yep.
But would that would that affect residents across the road? I'm just imagine they could have their blood pressure up.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just an idea. I think these would be pūrikawa trees that would grow over time if we wanted them to be there.
It's a good discussion point.
Yeah.
Okay, Ross, we've probably taken a fair bit of your time.
Sorry, just one more question. With the estimate now coming in over budget, so is that because we've continued to forecast to Hunt Road, or is that the current budget?
No, that's so the last report we did, it's just the Esplanade, and it's basically you've saved a lot on construction, but you've got the cost of the design, the cost of the consenting. There's other things that have basically,
The original budget of 557, was that only ever to go to Mula Crescent?
Well, I think it was all the way to Hunt.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so
now you're saying, you've said to the public that it's going to be 295 to Mula Crescent, and now you're saying it's going to be to Hunt.
295 is to the Esplanade.
And so now it's going to be double that when we've revised the construction of the boardwalk and said that it was going to save us so much more money.
So where's the doubling?
So is it, so the 600, that's what I'm just trying to grasp. Is
Okay,
that
yeah, sorry, no. So estimated costs for the Esplanade section were 479. So that was going to meet the original budget of the 557. So we at that point, up to the end of the Esplanade, we were going to meet budget. We then had a budget revision of 295, and then this report. So what we need to do is we need to finalise all the cost estimates based on the detailed design, get in all the cost estimates for the consenting, for the design, for the consultation. So you've got everything in front of you, and then basically look through it and pick and choose what you think is appropriate for the costs. What I guess I'm flagging now is that the original budget was going to cover the Esplanade, which was the 557. That's been reduced. Even though we've reduced the cost of construction of the boardwalk, there are other costs that are associated with the whole thing, and you'll need to have a good look at that when we come back in November. The other side to this is that there are subdivision budgets that were taken that could possibly be drawn on that would not have a rating impact.
Well, Ross, you do realise that a lot of the access ways onto the beach at the moment are impassable because of the cliffs. You've got 6 to 8 feet drops off some of those walkways.
Yep. So that's why, absolutely, and that's where that meeting on the 5th will hopefully address that. And I think Lou and Jamie have already started looking at, dealing with that, and they've got to deal with it now before summer and people arrive. So that will be sorted out. But I guess longer term, there needs to be a bit of recommendation of what we do in those spots where it's subject to erosion. And at this stage, Jamie's suggestion and Doc is that some of those hard structures are removed back and it's replaced with more of a soft option, planting and bollards. But that's something we'll have to come back to you in November with the final, and it might be worthwhile someone from the board being at the 5th.
Yeah, well, so what time is that meeting?
Sorry, Ross, can you send the note out to all the board members so those who want to come to the
Yep,
5th of
absolutely.
And can you please circulate the current estimate?
Yes.
Sorry, what did you say? Just the current estimate as it stands should be circulated.
Yes, so, yes.
Okay, Ross, thanks very much for the update. We've obviously got some more material to consider before November, and we'll have to have a big session then to finalise just what it looks like along the Esplanade. So thank you for your time. Yeah, good work.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the rest of the report. Any other questions there? Oh, sorry, I got one for you, Bruce. The CCTV cameras.
Yes.
What's happening there?
That's moving very slowly, so
slower than before.
Yeah, it's kind of maybe a little bit quicker, a little bit slower, depends how you look at it. So the Mayor did have some conversations with some people in Vodafone, so we got a name from her conversations. I then had Andrew Bowden contact that person in Vodafone, and it seemed promising, but it actually slowed right down again. So we're actually kind of back where we started around getting that landed. And Andrew Bowden is still pushing in that direction.
Terry.
Not letting this go.
No, that's fine.
This is really upsetting me.
Yeah.
The right words. This has gone on and on and on. Andrew was going to have a meeting with us last week. Yeah, we're coming over a meeting because Vodafone are useless pricks and won't do their job. Excuse my language.
This has been recorded.
About putting excuse my language. Putting an aerial up there for ourselves.
Yes, yeah.
We've had Gold FM interested in wanting to contribute, and so is Boot at Nigel Boot. But it's just got to happen, Bruce. It's just ridiculous that we've been pushed around like this for so long, and so much so that I reckon we should be looking at putting those other cameras up this year. Well, this is still could be another 2 years mucking around sorting this out. One in the park. We just heard this morning from Dave told us about what's happening in Rugby Park, where kids are on there smashing Steinlager green bottles on the grass. People play rugby on, and there are issues like that, and we still can't get this camera over that other side.
And they're still fighting on the skate park.
Why can't the council use their grunt to push these people around?
Well, so I hear what you're saying through the chair, hear what you're saying, Terry. I suppose the challenge for me is that we've gone right to the top. We've had the Mayor go and speak directly with people within Vodafone, and we still haven't managed to crack it. So I'm not saying I'm fully out of ideas, but I'm struggling at the moment as to how we push it forwards when we've already gone to the top of our organisation.
We just build another area. We just build a tower and put our own on.
Yeah, so the cost, and we can look at that, but the cost of doing that's going to be substantial around.
Well, it's just a pole, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just a power pole.
Yeah, we can look at it. Yeah, I can look at that if that's what you guys want.
Why don't we bring this to a meeting with Gold FM, Boot It, and our group, so that we can move it along from there.
Yeah, we can do that if we're keen to organise something. If you guys can help, around making the contacts, you've got the community contacts, and then we get Andrew Bowden along to that meeting, and we have that meeting with everyone there. I think that's probably a good idea to try and, as a bit of a last ditch attempt.
Can you organise that meeting for us, please?
I'll organise it with Andrew. The Andrew's meeting.
Yeah.
We'll tell them we would like to see it.
It's,
I hear frustration, Terry. And
no, it's frustrating.
Yeah, no, it is.
And it's just bleeding money all the time. Justice pulling his ear out. He's wanting to get this thing done. We really just need to get this over the line. And if they can't help us, then we'll just do our own thing. It's a peg in the ground with a repeater pinging a signal. It's not a biggie.
We're talking about safety here in relation to that side of town and security for our people. So, I think it's important that we do keep on the ball with this and move it.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I just ask a question? Have you only talked to Vodafone? You've not had any discussions with Boot?
With who, sorry?
Boot, Nigel Boot, who runs a...
That's what we're talking about, having a meeting set up, Gary, with Nigel Boot and others to pursue that.
No, I heard that, but the council hasn't done it to date. That's what my question.
Gary, I spoke to Nigel from Boot the other several weeks ago in relation to this. He's interested and wishes to have a meeting on it because it's advantageous to him as well. So he definitely is interested in pursuing discussion.
Yeah, well, I think we have to, as you say, This is the best sort of security you can have.
Yeah, whereabouts, well, just a quick question from me through the chairs, whereabouts are the police in all this?
They're 100% behind us.
With money?
No.
So that's my question, I suppose, is I totally support safety and security of communities, and the community board is keen for this, which I totally hear and I understand. But, you know, from a council perspective, we don't actually have a security activity within what we're rating for. So we don't have an activity that we're rating for. So I guess my point is where are police in this? Obviously, all our customers are also taxpayers. We're also paying a lot of money through central government tax, and we're not getting anything. It doesn't feel like we're getting the kind of buy. So the police are keen for it, obviously, and understand that.
Well, we had that discussion at the start with them, Bruce, and the deal was that we prepared for this money up, and they were going to police it.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at the money that we've put up.
Okay. Well, if
130 grand, and then where's that going? Because it's 2-3 years later.
Yeah.
And we still haven't done it. So they're still doing their bit.
Well, I think a lot of, I mean, you have had some cameras go up, they have used this as the one.
We've run out the other end of town, and they've caught several people off it, so he's doing his job.
Yep, I'm totally on board with it. And I guess if you've already got an agreement with police about how you're going to fund it, then that's fine. I'm not, you know, I'll come into that a little bit late, so I understand.
No, we through the community consultation, the feedback generally was very supportive from the community. It's something the community wanted to see.
I suppose my question is that, you know, and this is again, not just my role, I suppose, is to ask you is that, do the ratepayers want to actually fund all these things as well as in addition to paying tax, which is security and safety is an actual police.
It is a police thing to do, but they need the resources around it. We felt it's important in town, which becomes burglary town in the middle of winter.
Yep.
And he has no other tool to actually police that and catch the culprits.
Yep.
Through the chair, Bruce, police have got their own I&T, although it's gone into an independent section, the same as everything with what they've done. But it would be advisable for police to attend the meeting that we're going to have, because it could well be, I mean, they put up masks all over the place in relation to it, and it could be advantageous to them because there's very, very poor communication in a lot of those areas. So, you know, it would be advisable for them to be at that meeting.
Definitely.
And see, even if they did the installation for us, you know, we could do it
that's a good idea.
as a joint.
Definitely need them along at that meeting, well, sounds of it. So, yeah.
Okay, no, we've got to wait.
Through the chair, Kim, what is Vodafone's problem?
I don't know all the details because Andrew's the guy who's been working on that, but they have a range of issues around how high do you want it, that you're going to attach to the mast, how often you need to access it, what the power requirements are. There's a whole load of questions which Andrew's gone and answered, but often with these large organisations it can be hard to get decisions out of them. And so
there's only a camera on a pole.
I know.
We'll leave it there. We've got a meeting going to be organised.
It's the way to get moving forward. Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions on that report, we will then get someone to move.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Moved by Kay, seconded by Dave. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. So now we're moving to, we've done the parking bylaw. And we're moving to action scheduling. So there's a lot that has been completed, but there's some still open. We've talked about the platform that was open. It's lost the one.
Well, there you can put CCTV camera completed.
But
Something on the wall.
The action was completed, the action was for the mayor to engage with Vodafone, so that action's been completed.
She did that.
She did that.
We've now got a new action, which is to organise it.
blow up the town.
So the harbour walkway, have we had that to your satisfaction, Terry?
Well, nothing's happened, so it's pretty standard. Ross, it's obviously been deferred, so it'll happen sometime.
Okay, so totally to the 3rd of November.
Hold a sec. Just push the button on the left-hand side and count to 5. It'll beep when it's ready. Hang in there, hang in there.
And Paul, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Okay, so got a fair bit coming back to the 3rd of November, and it'll be a big workshop. What else were we having today? The
Spatial plan.
Oh, the community hub we're going to discuss later. Freedom campaign we'll do later. Doc are going to come along at some stage.
What about the spatial planning?
Yeah, that's later on today.
Oh, that's coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's at the workshop.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if there's anything more we need to discuss here.
Yeah, what about the freedom campaign?
That's coming later. Haven't you read your workshop agenda?
Yeah, I know, but he's sitting right beside me.
I know. So we're not going, we're just out with one workshop item already. We're not doing another one now.
That's me.
Okay, so someone like to move that we receive the action schedule? Dave?
Yeah.
I'll second that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Yes, carried. Right, now we're moving on to members' reports. Right, we'll leave you the last period because your vote's got a 2 pages of something.
In relation, I attended the Whangamata ratepayer meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they were appreciative of the money that they received for the grants, and thank you for that. 2 points that they made was, number one was the name of the road going into Whangamata, with the yeah.
How's it called? What's the name?
Whitiparala.
Whitiparala.
Yeah. Apparently, it interprets to rotting bodies, and they say that it's objectionable when they spoke to their kaumātua, and they wondered whether it was possible, please, to have a change of name from that. And they would be happy to discuss some alternatives if we could do that.
So what's the process for having that looked at, Bruce?
Sorry, I missed that, sorry.
The names of streets of residents want to change of street names.
Yes, that normally does come to the board and then the board can consider that.
Okay, so what's the avenue to get that process underway?
So the Whangamata ratepayers come to us with a new name for
Normally,
Thames-Coromandel Road?
they'd normally come and propose that name to the board.
Okay.
And staff can look at that and just confirm there's no issues with changing that name. And then formally come back to the board with that formal change.
Okay, so if we could have the ratepayers would they need to come and present to the board or just write a request?
Probably just a request.
Yeah, if they could send us a request and then we can pass it on to staff to investigate and come back to us to consider.
Thank you. Thank you. And the other point was there are fruit trees that they are caring for at behind the swimming pool complex where that pond is, and they've got fruit trees, and at present the only way that they can water them is by buckets, taking bucket loads up the rise there to do it. So I wondered whether there's a possibility to put in at least one of those 1,000-litre containers that are in a cage area up there that could be gravity fed. It would just be a matter of how the water is collected into there. That way it would save them a lot of hassle because, I mean, they're not, well, many of them are not young people and they're carrying bucket loads of water up and down to do it.
So that's something that Luke would have a look at?
Yeah, those community facilities. Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I've got.
Well, from me, not too much. Along with Terry, Councillor Walker, we met with the Seagull group, and they're very enthusiastic. We're coming back to the 3rd of November, have a discussion with staff being involved also about possible options as to where to go forward with that one. So, yeah, it's very keen group. The other one just mentioned that every month all the board chair have a session on the Coromandel FM, I think it's the name of it, to outline what's happening. So if you've got nothing to do on a Thursday, you can listen to me talking to what's happening. Rex Simpson interviews all the board members So I've got one coming up this Thursday.
What time is it?
10:30.
Oh, that'll be irritating.
It is. Thank you, Kate. Obviously, you've
I'm going to be listening to see what you say.
I won't mention your name.
Oh, that'll be fine.
Kate.
I just have a question for Bruce and Brian while they're here, under my members' report. Why do all our reports end up in the November meeting and then they get deferred to the February meeting, and we just keep going around and around and around? And I want to know, why can't we get some of these reports at the October meeting or the August meeting or something?
No.
Because we keep getting reports deferred and they always end up, you look how many we've got coming in the November meeting from you guys. And I want to know why they all end up there, because we all know that nothing gets done and it'll come back in February. So just a question. Now, for my report.
It wasn't.
Do you want me to respond to that or?
No, it doesn't.
No, you can't respond.
It's a rhetorical question. My mistake.
She's just venting, Bruce.
I'm just, you know.
No holiday, no report.
Okay, your report.
Right, now would you like my report?
You've got one.
Right, well, I went to the swimming pool meeting, even though I'm a de facto liaison then, but I went and I want to, want Graham to get punching with this, because I think it's really important for our town. It's undertaking a while, but we're getting there. Library meeting, they're ticking along fine, they'd like some more money, so we'll come to that later. What else? Oh, just had a lot of people ringing me. And I hopefully send them on to Terry and Ken. Because I don't know.
Yes, you have.
That's it.
Terry.
Yeah, a few points to raise. The Island View Work Programme, and I thought Derek might update us there, but I'm not too sure what's happening there. It'd be great to have a report before November on that. Powerco outage, you'll know that recently there was a Powerco outage. There was also a fire which our Dave was part of, but there was also, Amber was very good, Amber. Thank you very much, Amber, for your work and getting the communication out there. There was a strut on a pole that had broken and between here and Waihe, so they had to turn the power on for 9:30 till 2:30 was the plan, but they got a bit earlier, didn't they? Got it through a bit early. We had a lot of ringing around town to let people know. They were very thankful for the fact that they were told in advance so that we could put some plans into action. The actual area of coverage was wider than they thought because maybe the usage was low, so it spreads out. So still don't quite know exactly who's going to get it and when we're going to get it. But
do you know the Whangamata Club got it?
Yeah, Whangamata got it. Whangamata Club got it. The RSA got it. Ocean Sports got it. So it did have quite a bit wide and spread out. The medical centre got it. I rang up a whole lot of people and they were very happy to have power. The supermarket put its generator on, so they got through that. And Marina didn't have it, so they just out, but they're a bit further out. So there was some comms coming out about that, Amber, as they put something out?
The Powerco?
Yeah.
They just did a follow-up, which was shared.
Being shared, yeah. So thank you very much for your help there, it's great. The Summer Festival. We've heard that the Surf Club isn't running any of the events this year. They're a new committee and they're not running the Miss Whangamata, the beach run, the club to pub, the 5 and 10K and the swim. And we just wonder whether that gap can be filled, and has anybody come up with any other options on that? Have you had anything, Jennifer, from people wanting to do things during that period?
It wouldn't be coming through to me, it'd be coming through to Hayley.
Oh, yeah.
No, that'd be going to Kirsten. Kirsten's district events coordinator.
Right. Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything, no.
Right.
I didn't actually realise that they weren't doing one weekend.
Yeah. So a bit of a change, and at the top of the non-resident ratepayers now on the actual committee, and I think they maybe got some funding streams that made them decide not to do it. I don't know. They haven't been involved. I just thought I'd mention that. The CCTV, well, you've heard that story. It really gets me going, that one, but that's fine. Spatial plan we're going to talk about. It's a great opportunity to look about look for the town for the next 10 or 20 years, and hopefully we follow through that as a committee, and there's a working group from town interested in being involved with that as well. The policy consultation, there's 3 policies out for discussion. Gambling. Gambling was the fact that there was $10.6 million of gambling through our territory last year. Get this right. Of those, I think we're the highest in the country per machine, per unit. And then while there's a sinking lid policy where we're reducing these machines, the actual income's going up. And they produce 26 times more money to the community than the council does in terms of community grants. So it's quite amazing how much money does come back. So it's yin and yang. So that policy is out for a consultation. Significance engagement policy is out. And one of the key factors in there, we're looking at moving it from $1 million to $5 million as a threshold that you have to go to community to engagement. But that's policies there for discussion. And the water demand strategy. Bruce says that he will upgrade all the people in town who aren't connected if we have a look at water meters. But this is a strategy that does need some energy from people to look at, and I think you will get some comment about that. But that's part of the deal. But also opportunities for people to look at retention tanks and other ways of looking at it. If you looked at, was it 1 cubic metre of water per day was something like 38 showers and 5 bars. It was quite amazing the amount of. Something like that. Yeah. So a lot of clean people in town. So, but yeah, we're looking at ways to try and make people more understanding of the use of water and how better to manage it. So that's the thing. The beach planting on Henimoa Street. Have everybody seen the push-ups on the sand there? And they're going to plant that, and they've changed the beach access from straight down to an angle. You seen that? It's really worth looking at. Some work done by Tanya and the guy, who's the scientist guy, what's his name?
Jamie Boyle.
Jamie Boyle, yes. Jamie Boyle is the new coastal scientist. The panels for the coastal shoreline management plans are out, and those who are on those panels will start to meet soon and start working through that over the next year and working on ways to have more resilience on our coast for erosion and trigger points for the future. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Gary, are you still there?
Yes, I am still here. Notwithstanding the frustrations there are living in Auckland, last Friday evening, our place, which is sort of on the route towards the Harbour Bridge, the last cars in a train in front of us managed to get through by 10 p.m. and the whole road was blocked, and it has been chaos. And now the Western Ring, where they said people should use that, it's taking 3 times as long to go that way. So it's not easy. If I was going to try to come down to Whangamata, it'd take me 2 hours to get out of Auckland. So we're lucky to have the video link. And I have to say that I'm also very lucky to be able to communicate with Terry and board members by way of email and text and telephone to keep me up to date. And so I do like to have an input. And the swimming pool, for example, which I just haven't been able to make those meetings, I have been kept informed by email there. And recently, it was recently I was down, wasn't it, Terry? I went and saw Terry, and he showed me parts of Whangamata I never knew existed. And that was very helpful, and he took me around. And
was that nightlife or during the day?
No. Just pure land, tracts of land I didn't know really existed. And he gave me a bit of history, and that was very helpful. And Kay has got hold of me about certain matters, and I'm only too happy to help people if they've got some quasi-legal things they want to talk about. So I try and do my best in absence. I certainly hope to be at the next community board meeting in person. And so it's one of those things that is a little bit frustrating not to be there, but you can achieve a lot by the video link. And you probably heard me blurting in more than I perhaps should have, but I do like to be able to be involved, and I can by these other means. So that's my brief report, and we seem to be all building a bond now on the board, so that's great.
Excuse me, Gary, when are you down next?
I certainly hope to be down for the next community board meeting. I'm just trying to work a few things out. There's things happening that I have a few medical issues, and that's another problem that's just taking things, and I'm having to...
I might just flick you an email.
Okay, then.
It's
just that I had a medical procedure yesterday and I've got an operation coming up, so that'll be before the next board meeting.
So do you mind if I just send you an email with the stuff?
No trouble at all. I'm only too happy to communicate, as I do with just about all the board members, so that's great.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, so someone like to move those reports?
Just before we do, can I just mention that fire that we attended out there, the shortage of water. We had tanks coming in from Waihi, Cook's Beach. There were appliances coming from Chartwell in relation to it, but it does signify a shortage of water supply for us. And I just wonder if we could at some stage look at doing something about having a tanker, a 10,000 litre tanker or something that would be situated here in Whangamata, that working in conjunction with FENS so that we have got our own water supply. I mean, the other day it was fine because it was the only fire that we had within our area, and when it jumped across the other side and went through the pine thing, we were very, very lucky to contain it with the choppers that we did. But, you know, if we had another fire in Cook's Beach or somewhere up there where Tyra and them are unavailable to come, that could be quite awkward. So just in any of the emergency meetings that we look at or discussions, if we could please look at something for that.
Something Gary can help perhaps.
Be civil things, yeah?
Yeah, you can take on the project, but I think it's a great one, like Dave says, you know, if that wasn't escalated that fire, but there's other people bringing it, they could have burnt the whole peninsula off there. Yeah. So.
Because it certainly went quickly, and that was only caused by branches that actually touched the wires and activated. And of course, after the fire was out, they had to cut the trees down either side. It's right opposite where the Husqvarna driveway was. So you'll see where the trees have been cut down. And of course, the wires with the fire weakened, so they had to replace all the wires. That's why the power went off the next day, to replace the wires across the road.
There's a few trees around town that actually grown through wires. I reported some of them. A year later, they're still growing through the wires.
It's a big program with them to identify those and cut them down. So they're really happy to work with you on trying to control that. As soon as the wind blows, guess what?
Do we have a tree bylaw or something, and you know what people can put on their property? I'll tell you what.
Some of these are on council meetings.
Because I had a lady ring me. The next door neighbours have, on the corner of her driveway and their property, have put a Norfolk pine that is now 10 feet high, and the branches are going over her driveway, so she cut them off, and the neighbour put a spike in her driveway. And so I'm just wondering, do we have a tree bylaw? I said to ring Mr. Coram.
Thank you.
He'd be very happy with that.
I'm unaware of a tree bylaw, but
We don't have a master tree plan here, do we? There's no registered trees in Ontario except for the...
civil issue.
Yeah.
All I noticed was that, only time they worry about trees getting too big is on reserves, not on people. So you can actually virtually grow anything on your property.
Yeah.
It's a civil issue, but we actually have some information if they want to come in to see what their rights are with regard to trees.
Well, she's taken the right to do that.
If you go over the neighbour's place, you can cut them off, but you've got to put them back into their place.
The ladies.
Yeah, well, they got chucked back in.
Okay, that's digressing a bit. So we'll move on. So I'll move those reports. Someone like to second that? Okay. All those in favour? Against? Carried. So that brings to the conclusion today's meeting.